Hi everyone, my name is Jessalyn, or you might know me as The Long Way. Today I'll be answering all the questions you had about my job as an ETF Portfolio Manager at BetaShares and my career in finance. This video will be broken down into two parts. The first part is where I answer all the questions about my job as an ETF Portfolio Manager, and then the second part I'll take a deeper dive into my career in finance, so stay tuned. What tasks does your job involve? My role as a portfolio manager, we take care of the underlying assets within the ETF. So for equity funds, it'll be the underlying stocks and cash, and we also have to trade for flows as well. We also do product development and monitor market making and spreads, as well as some reporting. What does an average day consist of? The first thing we do in the morning is to prepare all the files and make sure they're accurate for all the funds to go to the market makers and ASX. That's so that they can correctly quote our funds and so you can trade them. It's also when we essentially do a quality control of all our funds, so we go through and check, are the positions in line? What's my cash level? Do I have any upcoming corporate actions? And do I need a trade for the fund? So all that needs to be done before 9 a.m. A market's open at 10, so from 9 to 10 is what I will call my hour of power. That's when I go through my reading, see what happened in markets overnight, what's in the headlines, what Elon Musk is tweeting about at the moment, and that's also when I would normally do my daily dabbles for you guys. That's also when I would set up my day, so I would go through my emails from overnight and my calendar, and to allocate time for all the tasks that I have to do. And 10 a.m. is when my day actually starts. So meetings, catch-ups, and I would work on product development, so a lot has to happen behind the scenes before we have a new finished product to bring to you guys. Meeting with researchers, developing an index, assessing it from a portfolio construction point of view, as well as all the logistics and operational side of things as well. It's also when I would do process improvements, so working on things to make my job more easier or more efficient, and maybe debugging something or just building something for the future for scalability. And while doing all that, we have to keep an eye on our funds and the market to make sure nothing too crazy is going on. So that's why you'll find that most of us has 2, 3, 4 or 5 screens. And from around 2 to 4:30 is when I'll get my hands down and dirty, and that's when I'll trade for my funds usually. So going back to the list we made in the morning, whether there are any dividends, mergers, index rebalances, so just the housekeeping of the funds, and that's also when we'll trade for any flows from market makers as well. Some days more quieter than others, but there are days also when something is happening in nearly all the funds that we manage. So on average, we manage 10 plus funds each. So when you have to trade across each and every one of them, it can be a lot of time and time just slips away from you. So that's usually why I have a chunk of my calendar booked out every single day, just dedicated for trades. And then I'll start finishing up for the day, so going back to my emails that came in from 2 to 4 and just finishing off my to-do list. And that's practically it. And if you're wondering, I normally do my posts or my reels in my lunch hour. Do you hate sitting in front of a computer for 10 hours a day? Yes, who doesn't? But I try to get up every hour, or at least my Apple Watch will remind me to stand up, maybe go for a quick walk around the office or get a drink or tea or just something. Speaking of which, I'm gonna stand up, I'm gonna have a break right now. Top 3 aspects of your job that you like in detail. First thing I like is control. Control of the funds, positions and trades. It's a lot of responsibility, not only in the sense of it's a lot of dollars that I'm managing, but also in the fact that anything I do has a direct impact on your investment and your money. Control also in the sense of my role and career at BetaShares. I'm very lucky that they're very trusting of me and supportive and allow me to take my career in the direction that I want. And that brings me to the second point I like about my job is at BetaShares, it's a smaller company. They're a lot more nimble, flexible, and fast-paced. That usually means that you have to do more than what's required and taking on a lot more responsibilities, but I also enjoy that because that means that I'm not boxed in. So what I've found working at a larger corporation is that everything tends to be quite pigeonholed. There's a lot of layers you have to get through, a lot of red tape just to get anything done. And over time that just felt very limiting. If I just knew I could do so much more, but I was just physically constrained. And lastly, this one's a bit hard to describe, but I like to see the relevance of what I do and how it translates into everyday life. So for example, how I manage the funds, the trades that I do has a real impact on the fund and its performance. And I really enjoy and like being a part of your investment journey or your retirement planning with all your money going into the ETFs that I manage. Don't know if anyone or any of you ever wondered or thought about this, or it's just me, but have you ever thought about what's my part in all of this? How does my job or what I do impact or contribute to blah. Now moving on to my career in finance. Can you tell me about your career in finance and all the jobs that you've previously had? So I've been in the industry for over 8 years, of which I've had 4 different roles. So my first job out of uni was an operational role. You can kind of say it's a hybrid between settlements and reconciliation. So I was in that role for just under a year, and then I moved over to the investment risk management team, which was more an analytical role that reported to stakeholders within the business. I spent around 3 years in the risk role before I moved over to a systematic equities team in Macquarie as a portfolio manager's assistant and quant analyst. And now I'm here at BetaShares. I've taken the journey of what you would call the transition from back office operational to middle office risk to front office equities, and that's where I started trading for the funds. It's a journey which quite many have taken if you're wondering how you can make the transition or slowly get into finance in a front office role, but I would say that nowadays it's not that easy to make that transition anymore. Speaking from my own experience, I would say that having worked in investment risk did help my transition or the jump from back office to front office. It just gave me a lot more interactions with the portfolio managers and building connections, as well as just providing more exposure and giving me a better idea of how a fund actually works as opposed to just the operational side or administrative side of the funds. To transfer between departments or just to advance to a new role, I would say that being good at your old job isn't enough. You have to understand what's required and the skills needed for the new job and build and work on those in your own time. Now when it comes to networking, a lot of you have probably heard that's very helpful, and it is, but I would say quality over quantity. So having fewer deeper, more meaningful connections will probably help you or be more helpful than just having a lot of connections. So I mean, impressions do matter, but your skill set and your skills is your capital, it's your human capital. It's something that you can control and can build up yourself. At the end of the day, no one is going to hire you if they don't think that you can do the job. What skills or experience do you find the most helpful? Something to consider is I would say there are 2 sets of skills and experience. So the first one is what gets screened by HR and gets you through the door for an interview, and the second is what will actually help you do your job and help you exceed. So the first set is what gets screened by HR, so it's usually your credentials. So what did you study at uni, any additional study that you took on, so for example the CFA accreditation or any extracurricular activity that you did. And as an example for the ones that actually help you do your job, so a common question that we get asked or we ask in interviews is, do you invest yourself? It shows that you're interested in the markets, and what I like to say is that by doing, you actually learn and pick up so much more knowledge and skills than you would have just by reading a textbook. So for example, you understand how an ETF works, the investment process, and you get to experience firsthand things such as price movements and volatility. One of the other skills which I think are the most beneficial are actually not related to the job. They're the more transferable skills that can apply to any job anywhere. So first one is problem solving and risk management. When you think about it, each and every role when it comes down is solving some form of problem or different iteration of solving a problem for a different role or industry. So I think it's the approach or the analytical mindset. How do you go about resolving the problem of figuring out what's wrong? So communication is also a strong skill. At the end of the day, we all work in some form of a team, and it's about how you approach or solve that problem as a team together. Managing expectations. So not only am I talking about the KPIs that you have with your direct manager and your day-to-day job, but also in regard to the expectation you have with your workplace about your career, your job, your pay. So all that goes both ways. Think you can be a portfolio manager? As a bit of fun, I actually found the job spec for my role when they were hiring, so let's go through it. Key responsibilities of this role will include assisting in the management of portfolios against their relevant benchmarks and in accordance with the portfolio management guidelines. Portfolios will comprise both Australian and global equities, and certain portfolios will include passive derivative overlay strategies. Measuring benchmark, tracking efficiency, fund attribution, and identifying or mitigating tracking risk. Identifying and executing trades necessary for funds to meet their investment objectives, including index changes, cash flows, corporate actions, and hedging. Forgot about hedging and all of that. monitoring market making activities for listed funds, develop front office tools and preparing timely reports for internal users, assisting the business as needed with product development, business strategy and reporting, collaborate and coordinate efforts with sales, marketing, compliance and operations. Key skills and experience. BCom or other tertiary qualifications essential, 3 to 5 years of previous experience in asset management, index or portfolio trading, or any other similar experience. Excellent technical knowledge of financial products, strong analytical and quantitative skills to calculate and interpret portfolio management and risk measurements, advanced Microsoft Excel knowledge, including advanced skills in VBA programming. Proficiency in other programming languages desirable. Ability to make quick decisions, establish priorities, and concentrate on detailed information under stressful conditions. Strong risk management mindset, strong communication skills, highly organized and able to multitask, and strives for continuous improvement. So how did you go? How many did you tick? A quick bit of career advice. So they say that women will only apply for a job if they feel like they tick all the boxes and criteria, while men will apply for a job as long as they feel like they're sufficient in 60% of the criteria. Throughout all my job changes, I would honestly say that I didn't have or tick all the boxes that were required, but what I was confident in was my skills to pick up, learn, and excel all the requirements that were needed for the job. And that's what makes me the best candidate. For example, prior to my previous role in the systematic equities team, I couldn't code at all, and that was a strong requisite or requirement for the job, given that it is quant-based. I mean, it took me a while, it took me over a year, but now I can code in both Python and SQL. So what I would say is just believe in yourself and go for it. If you could restart at 18, would you choose the same area or pathway? That's a really interesting question. I never saw myself ending up in either ETF or even just the asset management space. I always saw myself as an investment banker. But thinking back now, it's because I didn't know better. I didn't know much about finance and the possible roles and scope that it had. Because finance is only ever portrayed as either being a trader, an investment banker, or like your retail bank, like your bank tellers and your home loans. So most people's knowledge about the financial world is so limited. It's kind of like saying the whole healthcare industry is only limited to your GPs, your pharmacies, and your emergency rooms, because that's all that's ever portrayed to us in your movies, your TV shows. But like every industry, it's actually so broad. There's so many different roles, functions, groups, and departments. And all this is actually a big reason, and so I decided to start my social media, so not only to raise awareness about financial literacy, but also to shine a light on the asset management industry, ETFs, and in particular portfolio management as a possible career path for both boys and girls. So as some of you might know, I'm the only girl on the team, and actually now thinking back, I've spent over half of my career being the only girl within the team, and just industry-wide, there are just very few women working on the investment side. In my opinion, the image that finance has is just so outdated with your Wolf of Wall Street, your finance bros, and it's not helping the industry attract or retain any female talent. And that's what we're here to change. So to answer your question, no, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm very happy with my current role at BetaShares and where my career has taken me, but I would say if I knew more about finance and the possible career paths, I may have taken some different steps or different decisions along the way. And that's it. That was all the questions. I hope you found this insightful, and as always, if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and remember to like and follow.